She cheated and I'm finding out and it hurts. Good day, everyone. I, 34-year-old male, discovered my wife, 33-year-old female, in our bed with another man. For the benefit of my sanity, I'll refer to my wife as Ellie and my best buddy as Omar. Not our real names. Ellie and I met in college and clicked right immediately. When we first started dating, I wasn't very aggressive. In fact, it was her exhibiting interest and desire in me that caused me to begin to appreciate myself and work through a slew of issues. I was simply a hardworking, nerdy, clever person who had never had much luck with women. It seemed almost unbelievable to me that someone as intelligent and beautiful as her would show as much interest in me as I did in her. We've both always been driven, which led to us each starting our own little enterprises by the time we left college. We moved in together after college and married a year later. We had a pretty strong marriage, in my opinion. We'd been through family tragedies, professional problems, and minor and huge arguments, and we'd always managed to work through it all, and I believe it made us stronger. Ellie has always had a broad social circle that included a good number of guys, but I never gave it much attention because she never did anything that raised red lights because all social events seemed to always be with a large mixed group, and I grew to trust her closest friends. As our 10-year anniversary approached, I decided to bring up the subject of starting a family. We had chosen early on in our relationship to compromise on the size of our family. I wanted kids, she wanted none or at most one, so we settled on one. Now, 10 years into our marriage, financially stable, and thinking about how healthy I thought our relationship was, I broached the subject. I can't help but think that my actions may have triggered this entire line of events. She told me around 3 months ago that she was going out with her buddies to have some fun. She basically told me she needed to relax since she was freaked out over me asking about having children again. That night, at 4 a.m., she returns, and our bedroom is entirely dark from then on. In our relationship, Ellie has always initiated as much as I have, if not more frequently, and except for brief periods when we were traveling, I can't see us ever lasting more than 5 days without any type of intercourse. She starts going out more, guarding her phone, ignoring me, and doing things I've never seen her do before. After about 3-4 weeks of this, I talk to my best friend, Omar, and he directs me to Reddit, where I begin reading. I eventually feel I need to do something about it because it's starting to bother me. I don't just want to trust her. I prefer to trust my wife, and I have to trust her. Needless to say, I get my hands on her phone and start checking her calls and texts, feeling like a monster invading her privacy. One of the new folks in her social circle turns out to be old high school love from before we were together. The more I dug, the more I discovered. I suppose the fact that I'd always trusted her entirely made her more relaxed about concealing the affair. I discovered that he had attended that party a month before, and they had spent the entire night catching up and ended up kissing, not even really disguising it from her entire circle of people, and then conveniently walking to the restroom at the same time. All I'd felt up to this point was a huge pit of uneasiness in my stomach, a part of me attempting to cling on to the idea of the lady I believed I'd married, a kind of self-delusion. But the anger and despair become overwhelming, exacerbated by the fact that she appears clueless to my sudden apathy. She didn't notice I'd ceased making romantic gestures. I felt like I was breaking down on the inside. Finally, about a month ago, I decided to catch them in the act, and I told Ellie I was going to visit my cousin for the weekend. He lives 3 hours away, but instead I went to stay with Omar, who has been assisting me in recording and copying everything. I waited, and sure enough, she took him to our house and placed him in our bed. I crept inside the home and made my way to our room, and the sounds confirmed my suspicions. They were so engrossed in it that they didn't notice me standing outside the door, capturing them with my phone. I literally felt something inside of me snap, like if something in my spirit snapped so loudly that I could hear it. My veins turned ice cold, and I couldn't breathe because it felt like a 10-ton anvil had been dropped on my chest. I became numb. Because I only recall sections of the next few minutes, I can only tell you what Omar says happened in this section. According to Omar, whom I had brought as a witness, I walked over to them, yanked the guy off the bed, and Omar yanked me off of him. I recall Omar pinning me to the ground. Following that, there was the expected hysteria of being apprehended. I went no contact for 5 weeks and started working with a lawyer, bracing myself for the worst. Omar acted as her point of contact throughout that period because I didn't want to talk to her. Ellie called my folks to inform them that we were having troubles. We met and talked after 5 weeks of NC. She was sorry and said it wasn't my fault because it was all her blame, her responsibility, and her decisions. We decided to seek marriage counseling to see if there was anything salvageable. I can't believe I still adore her after all of this time. I'm disgusted with myself for caring about her well-being and happiness. I really despise the fact that I now have to rethink our entire relationship. Was it just now that she became open about cheating? Or had it happened before and I didn't look far enough, or was too trusting to see it at all? It's been over a month since I decided to undergo marriage therapy, and I have a few questions for those who have already gone through it. Is it possible to reconcile without losing some self-respect? How long does the cycle of anger, sadness, and numbness last? I'm tired of being on an emotional roller coaster all the time. I despise the idea of constantly being on guard. I'm not sure if that's a symptom of me wanting to leave or just exhaustion. To be honest, I'll take any suggestions. I adore her. I've been madly in love with her since we met in college, and I want to make it work. Is it really feasible? And if so, will it ever resemble what it used to be in any way? Update. After reading everyone's responses and letters, I took the weekend to process everything and stiffen my resolve. I realized that if I stayed with her, I would never be able to live with myself. Staying and working on it would require me to give up a big chunk of my self-esteem. I also recognize that I don't want to be in a relationship that requires me to be constantly on the lookout for symptoms of treachery. So I decided to hit the proverbial red button and destroy everything. Here's how it all played out. Monday, I awoke to an unexpected surprise. My Johnson greeted me with full attention when I opened my eyes. Guys, I can't tell you how surprised I was, given that I hadn't had morning wood since learning about Ellis' affair. My body seemed to be saying, hell yeah, we're going to get this done today and be done, ready for something fresh. I literally laughed so hard when I saw it that Omar and his wife came to check on me, thinking I was having a nervous breakdown. I woke up, dressed, and called Ellis' father to tell him we needed to chat. I met him approximately an hour before our main event. I was shocked at how calm I was the entire trip there. Deep down, I could still feel an ocean of feelings, but on the surface, I didn't feel anything. We sat together at a small mom and pop breakfast joint near his house. Ellis' father is a good man, cheerful and witty, but most importantly, he is calm. I complimented him for how he and his wife had treated me over the years and apologized for having to have this conversation with him. He listened carefully, but when I told him why I was divorcing his daughter, he bowed his head. I could tell he wasn't angry, not at me, but at Ellie. He said he understood, and I requested him not to tell Ellie because I was going to tell her in 1 hour. He nodded, we shook hands, and he warned me to be careful. I despised having to break his perception of her. I questioned whether I should have asked him to care for her, but I suppressed that instinct because, first and foremost, he is her father, and of course he will care for her. But it is also no longer my responsibility to care for her. She is a big girl. I next proceeded to our MC session, which was on our schedule. I had spent all day Sunday preparing what I would say to her and how I would say it. For the following few hours, I wanted to essentially emotion-proof my actions and words. I sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes, just praying. I hadn't felt like I wanted or could do anything since it all started. Ellie was wearing one of the gowns I liked her in when we sat down for MC, and for a few seconds I forgot everything, but then the visceral disdain and contempt I felt forced the desire entirely out. I let the counselor get things started, as I had done in prior sessions, and after approximately 10 minutes of her and Ellie conversing, I cut her off. Here's how it went. Myself, excuse me, but I have a few things to say to Ellie that I wanted to be able to say here, with a neutral third party. If I am interrupted at any moment, I will simply leave and that will be the end of it. Ellie, I realized I don't need to know if this was your first time cheating. It makes no difference. I don't need to know how long it lasted. It makes no difference. I don't care how many times you cheated. It makes no difference. I'm not interested in finding out. Why? Even if there was an excellent explanation, a flawless one, it would be irrelevant. It doesn't matter what you did. What matters is that you did it. I now understand that the only facts that matter are those that are true. You would never have children with me. Ellie opens her mouth to intervene, but I start walking to the door, so she instantly backs off. You were going to drag me along for as long as it took. You had to cheat on me sooner or later. At this point, the tears begin to flow for her. You do not respect or love me. The counselor appears to be about to interject, and I reply by taking another step towards the door, which ends that. My lawyer is filing for divorce as we sit here, and your father knows the complete truth of what has been going on as of about an hour ago. Please do not contact me. Lawyers will be the only people with whom we shall communicate from now on. These are the last words we'll ever say. Bye-bye. I took the final few steps to the door and exited. As soon as I shut the door, I heard a howl that would haunt people's dreams. She ran out of the office, chasing me and trying to stop me, telling me how sorry she is, how we can have a family, and to give her a second opportunity while crying uncontrollably. I pushed by her, got in my car, and drove away. That ocean of emotions that had been quietly hiding behind it all began to roil at this point, and I was barely holding it in. I drove to my parents' house and texted Ellis, closest friends, spouses, the text message I had planned. My father was at the shop when I arrived home, but my mother could tell I wasn't feeling well. She has always been able to read me like a book. I told her I needed to tell her and her father something important, so we sat and waited. I'd like to thank Responsible Mode 114 for contacting me at this stage. We talked, and he really calmed me down. Dad arrived about 30 minutes later. I let it all out. I felt that ocean of emotions emptying it all, that pain pouring out of me as I talked more. When I finished talking to my father, he just held me for 20 minutes while I cried into his shirt. When it was all over, I was exhausted yet strangely at peace. I've arranged for Omar to acquire a Harley Davidson that he's had his eye on for a while. He has been more than a friend to me, and I intend to do all in my power to be as good a friend to him as he has been to me. I just wanted to say thank you, everyone. I never expected to get decent and reasonable counsel from strangers on the internet. I realize it will be a long road ahead, and that I will still require IC to cope with the fallout from this disaster and regain my trust. I have to hope that if I do the job, all of this sorrow, misery, and fury would fade away gradually like Roto-Rooter for my spirit. The rest of my life begins now, and I can honestly say I'm looking forward to it.